Okay guys, so I'm going to show you how to do the 360 artwork. So you're going to be working in Photoshop, but it's really important you work in an old Photoshop version. These are little sample images that you can download, just right click, say, save image as, or you can copy them into Photoshop. They're, I apologize, they're pretty low res and they have black bars on the bottom and top because I just downloaded an old Google slide. I was too lazy to look for my original files. I'll hopefully update that at some point. But this is just to kind of show you what is the 2D image that then becomes 3D. Don't forget, you can look at what those actual images are like in the 3D space. I think on this website here, let me just fast forward a little, go through a slide. So this slide right here, you'll actually see all three of these, I think, are posted so you can see what they look like moving around. But this is the 2D, and then again, we're gonna move into 3D. All right, so I'm just gonna go ahead and show you, starting from scratch, as if you're making like an experimental, I'm just making my first 360 ever, and I'm just gonna play around. So I would suggest you first just like not get too hung up, like what's gonna go where. Just get something, open something, you'll get to know how it works just by playing around. So you're gonna say new file, and we're gonna go ahead and open something. The aspect ratio is important, so to make sure that it wraps correctly. Oh, my little dialog box popped up on my other window. All right, so I'm just gonna go to, let's see, I'll go to web, because that's gonna give me the pixels, whatever options over here. If you're in a different, if you're in print already, no problem, just change it to pixels. But if you click web, it does it for you. All right, so I'm gonna go to web, and I'm gonna go ahead and call this 360 artwork test. And I'm gonna go ahead and put my width at 2000 by 1000. And I'm gonna hit create. All right, and that's gonna give me a canvas like so. So you need to make sure that you have the 360 option here. So when you go to window, you should see something that says 360, and I can see that mine doesn't, which means I need to pause and I need to downgrade my Photoshop. Whoopsies. So I'm gonna go here. Perfect, because I was thinking I just skipped that anyway. So I'm gonna go to Adobe Creative Cloud, and I'm gonna get another version of Photoshop. I'm not gonna replace my Photoshop. I'm just gonna get a second version that's lower. So I'm gonna click these little meatballs. I heard this is the technical term, the little 3 dots. Click on that, and I'm gonna click other versions. And I'm gonna look for an older version. So right now I'm on 25.4. I'm not gonna uninstall it, I'm gonna keep it, but I'm gonna go down and I'm gonna get this 24.7.2 that says long-term supported. This is just an older version because they got rid of the 3D stuff. Installing this version, yes, I wanna do that. Continue. So I'm gonna go ahead and pause the video now because you don't need to suffer while this takes like 10 minutes to download. So I'm gonna go ahead and pause the video, and then I'll be back with you after this installs. Okay, so I've downloaded my Photoshop, and you can see I went back to this 24.7.2. So that's the one I'm gonna open, and you can see I have 2 versions on there. So I'm just gonna make sure I'm opening the old version, which hopefully, I don't know if it's gonna get wonky because I have this other one open. We'll see what happens. I might have to close this one. I'll probably have to close this other one. And then I'll open the old one. Open. Okay, it looks like I was able to get it open, but it opened up some old things I had as well. So let me go ahead and close those. And you can see I have now this menu that says 3D up there, and that's what I need, that's what I'm looking for. So I'm gonna go ahead and open my new file again, and again I'm gonna choose web, and I'm gonna go for 2000 by 1000, 2000 by 1000 at 72, and this is my 360 test artwork, Dreon, March 24. All right, we have our stuff. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and I'll just show you how you can get from Schoology, if you want to paste one of these other images in, you can play around. I'll go ahead and grab this one. Copy image. I'll just paste it in just to show you. Whoops, this is the old version, so you might have to hold shift. Could just be how I have my version set up. All right, so I've got my image here, and again, this was the 2D. So how do we move over here into the 3D space? You're gonna go ahead and click 3D and new 3D layer from hold on one second. Sorry, 3D, spherical panorama, new panorama from selected layer. So when I do that, yes, I want to switch to the 3D space. Okay, it's telling me it's being discontinued, great. So now I can move around, and you should be able to move around with just your mouse, and you could see that, oh, it looks like I didn't quite line up my document. That's okay. I'll go ahead and, perfect. I'll go ahead and show how to fix that up here. All right, so this is my 3D space. So this is what my 3D artwork looks like. So you could see the 2D and the 3D. All right, so I want to also, you can make stuff just in a 2D space and then like test it out, like, okay, I have no idea what this is gonna look like. Let's just try something. But you can also paste some stuff into the 3D workspace directly. So actually right here, I can see that like, I don't like this right here. So I'm actually gonna go ahead here and I'm gonna patch this up and I'm gonna fix it. So I'm gonna go to my layers. I'm gonna make a new layer. I'm gonna go ahead and grab you know what, I will do a blue so that way it'll be real obvious. I'm gonna go ahead and get the eyedropper. I'll sample this blue and I'll get a brush, a nice soft brush, and I'm gonna go ahead and patch this up right here. I wanna get rid of that little error in my document. All right. Oh, I clicked too many times. I'll hit undo a few times. Okay, there we go. So I'm happy with this. So if I go back here to the 3D and I go to my move tool, when I move around, this is actually moving with me, which is not what I want. I want to commit this to the 3D space. So what I need to do is get it into position, which is right here. I wanted to fix up that little hole. And now I'm gonna do what's merge down. So I'm gonna right click and I'm gonna say merge down. I'm not going to say merge visible or flatten because I think that's going to get rid of my 3D spherical map. So I'm just going to hit merge down, and now that is now like integrated part of this 3D layer over here. So now I can move around and I have fixed that up. Okay, so let's say, I don't know, I did not get the word dissolve in here enough. So let me go ahead and put the word dissolve in here. So I'm going to go to my text. And maybe I'll go white. And I just want the word dissolve in here again. Dissolve. All right, and again, I need to, if I go back to the 3D space here and I move around with my move tool, V is the move tool, you can see that it's moving with me, which is not what I want. I want it to become part of my image. So I'm gonna go ahead and Control T, get it into position where I want it. Maybe I want it right here. I'm gonna go ahead and change the font. Actually, I'll keep it that just to make it obvious for the demo. Maybe I'll lower the opacity. You can still do stuff like lower your opacity. You can still do blend modes, all those fun things. So you know what? I will do a blend mode just so you can see, and I'll make this very big. So I'll go really big, and I'll put that right here. And again, I'm going to right click and say merge down. Now, this is a type layer, so it works a little bit differently. I first have to rasterize the type because I'm not seeing that merge. I don't see merge as an option. So I'm gonna first rasterize it, which means I'm gonna make it so I can't edit it any longer. So now it's become like an image layer, and now I can right click and say merge down. And now it is part of my 3D space. So again, when I move around, there it is, there's dissolve as part of my 3D space. All right, so you eventually, so you can build stuff in a 3D space, or you can just work solely in the 2D space and just kind of wing it and see what's gonna happen. You do eventually need to get it back to a 2D image so we can export, put it in a different program. so you can get it on your phones and like move around in the world and not just, be limited to Photoshop, so you can send the link to people. So to do that, I need to go back to 2D. So I'm going to go 3D, and I'm going to say spherical panorama, export panorama. And when I do that, let me go to my downloads folder. This is my exported 360. I'm going to hit save. And then let's see what that one, when I open it, here's my exported test. And you can see now the new document has that word dissolve in there. Now you'll notice it looks a little bit distorted here, but it's not distorted here. When you work in the 3D space, you don't need to like worry about positioning or like distorting things so that way they end up undistorted. So the 3D space, once you get kind of like a nice base, I think it is actually easier to work in the 3D space. Otherwise, you'll notice that when you're working on documents, kind of what is here almost at the horizon line, like the equator of your document, those things don't get distorted, but things at the poles really get distorted. And you probably have no idea what I'm talking about, so let me just show you. I'm going to create a new 360. So I'll go ahead and again, I'm going to do 2000 by 1000 by 1000, and I'm just going to do a 360 Zentangle test. And I'll show you what I mean. All right, so I have just pulled up here on Google Images like a little Zentangle, and I'm going to paste that in. So right click, copy image. I'm going to paste this in. All right, so let's say I'm trying to do a 360 that is completely just like experimental. I have no idea what's going to happen. Maybe I'll duplicate this layer. And I'll put one over here. All right, so I'm going to turn this maybe now into a 360. And you know what? I'm going to merge these two layers first. Sorry. Merge layers, and maybe I'll make these even bigger so they're hanging off the page. All right, so you can see here in this Zentangle, all the boxes, they're roughly the same size, right? So let's go ahead and make this into a 360 layer and see what happens. So 3D, spherical panorama, new panorama from selected layer. I'm actually not sure what's going to happen because I have stuff hanging off the edges here. Let's see how it works out. I'm not sure if it'd be better to crop it. You can see, there we go. Here's my Zentangle stuff here. But you can see that stuff is like really getting distorted. So things are getting pinched at the top, right? And then they're a lot more stretched out here in the center. And then they're getting pinched again at the bottom. So kind of like North Pole, South Pole, those things are gonna get pinched, okay? So again, you can work in the 3D space, or you can create your document completely in the 2D and just be like, I don't know what's gonna happen, let's just see. So patterns, textures, I would highly suggest playing around with those things, some different light effects, and then don't forget, you can get really, you can create the illusion of a very deep, space or area by making items like very, very teeny tiny. So this has like lots and lots of these light rings, and they're really, really, really teeny tiny, right? So those are gonna look a lot farther away. And this document is gonna have a lot more depth, right? It looks like I can see a lot farther than something like this where I'm like stuck really up close. So you can definitely play with scale. And again, you can also start experimental and then decide to paste something in here as well. Okay, so that's how you can get started on the 360. So just to recap, when you make the new document, you want to be in pixels, resolution 72. You want to do 2000 by 1000. Oopsie, I can't type, 1000. Okay, that's the kind of document you want. You want to make sure you have this 3D menu. So if you need to downgrade your Photoshop, make sure you do that. Okay, you're going to choose the fully long-term supported 24 point something version. Okay, so that way you have this 3D menu. And then again, to work in the 3D space, you're going to go to 3D, spherical panorama, new panorama from selected layer. Oh, here. 3D, spherical panorama, new panorama from selected layer, and then to get back from 3D into 2D, after you paste stuff in, 3D spherical panorama export. Okay, and that's it in a nutshell.